What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video. And recently on my channel, I believe it was my last video, we actually talked about the Patriots offense. We talked about their offensive coordinator and Matt Patricia and how he's not going to be returning as the New England Patriots offensive coordinator in 2023, essentially meaning that somebody has to take over that role. You know, it was Josh McDaniels, it was Bill O'Brien, it was Matt Patricia. And just knowing how much Bill Belichick likes to work closely with New England's defense, you got to imagine that this offseason, he's going to actually bring in a body to work as the Patriots offensive coordinator and actually have a set offensive coordinator as opposed to what they're doing defensively. And of course, one guy that I think most Patriots fans want, and the biggest name so far that I'm hearing surfacing around New England, is Bill O'Brien. And this move would make so much sense. When Mac Jones was drafted, I actually made a video talking about how this could and should be a move that Bill Belichick makes. But obviously, that did not happen this past offseason. Mainly because, for those who don't know, Bill O'Brien is actually currently the offensive coordinator for Alabama. And the head coach for Alabama is Nick Saban, who is Bill Belichick's best friend. Those guys are buddies, and that's why you see like 80% of Bill Belichick's draft classes each year being Alabama players. With that being said, Bill Belichick and Nick Saban have kind of a rule where they just do not poach coaching staff members from each other's team until their contracts are up. So basically, Bill O'Brien was still under contract for one more year with Alabama, which in Bill Belichick's eyes made him untouchable. He was not able to bring on Bill O'Brien because he still had that contract with his buddy in Nick Saban for one more year. With that being said, though, that one-year contract is just about up, and Bill O'Brien will be able to go really anywhere he wants. He can stay in Alabama. He can have a head coaching job in the collegiate level. He can come back to the NFL. There are a lot of options currently open for Bill O'Brien, and all doors are going to be open. But from all reports that I'm hearing league-wide, Bill O'Brien does want to make a return to the NFL. Now, is that as a head coach? Is that as a positional coach? I think he's going to weigh out all of his options, but a return to the New England Patriots is, and I quote, very open. And Greg Bedard actually came out himself and said that Bill O'Brien could be running New England's offense next season. And then Albert Breer also came out and reported that he thinks that Bill O'Brien is also interested. He said, and I quote, "I think he's interested in coming back to the NFL." I think he's interested. I do. I think he's interested in potentially coming back to the Patriots. He's got a relationship with Mac Jones. I think going back to the NFL appeals him, which at the end of the day would make a lot of sense. Now, again, we still have to see the other offers he's going to get. I'm sure he's going to get offers as a head coach at the collegiate level, like I said, but I think Bill O'Brien does want to make a return to the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants to be a head coach again at some point in the NFL after being with the Texans for so many years, but then flopping out there towards the end, getting fired, and then having to go back to the college level. So it seems like his best chance at doing so would be to slowly start making his way back into the NFL, be a positional coach, and then if you do well, get offers to be a potential head coach. I mean, Greg Bedard even said himself, and I quote, "I think that Bill O'Brien is waiting for his phone to ring, and I think that he would be open to coming back home here." There are so many ties back to each other that this really is a match made in heaven, and it would seem wrong if the Patriots did not actually land Bill O'Brien this offseason. Now, of course, it's going to be up to Bill O'Brien and what he wants to do. We've seen crazier things happen, and for all we know, maybe he just wants to be a head coach at the college level. But from everything I'm hearing, he does want to get back to the NFL one way or another. And again, if you're Bill O'Brien and you want to look as good as possible to potentially be a head coach again in the NFL within a couple of years, your best way at doing so is probably the Patriots, right? Because it's a very similar system that you've been working with here in Alabama with Nick Saban, not to mention that you already know Bill Belichick, you have a connection with him, you know some of the players currently still on this team, and you know this offense, you know this offensive scheme because once upon a time, you were the offensive coordinator for this team. And I really think the Patriots do need to get back to their true identity, because this offseason, they were trying a multitude of different schemes. I think throughout this season so far, we've seen like 4 or 5 different offensive schemes, when in reality, we need to stick to one, and we need to go through that game plan in the offseason, and we have to stick to it through the postseason. And the best way at doing so is going back to what we're good at and staying true to the game plan and the type of offense we are. And Bill O'Brien can come back and continue to implement that and bring it back into New England's locker room. And like I said, he does have a little bit of a rapport here with Mac Jones. They really didn't get to actually work together side by side offensively while at Alabama, because when Mac Jones was coming out and getting into the draft process, that's when Bill O'Brien was coming in. And believe it or not, Mac Jones actually taught Alabama's playing style and the playbook to Bill O'Brien. So they're familiar with each other. They have a rapport, but they didn't actually really work together for us to say, hey, this is what to expect from both of those guys. Now, there is one worry that I do have here with Bill O'Brien, and that's the fact that Alabama did take a step back. I can't lie, they did take a step back here this past season, especially offensively. And a lot of people are going back and pointing those fingers at Bill O'Brien. But again, at the end of the day, it's a different story. While the Patriots offense and the Alabama's offense are very similar, they are still slightly different. Not to mention that Bill O'Brien never played under Nick Saban and never actually worked with Alabama before. This was his first real season. As we're with Bill Belichick and New England's offense, again, he used to be the offensive coordinator, so he can kind of come back and just pick up where he left off and kind of build on that. And something that I like about Bill O'Brien is that although he's an older guy, he's still been a head coach. So he's seen several different teams. He's seen a lot of these players, both from an NFL level and a collegiate level. But because he was an offensive coordinator here for Alabama, he can see some of this fresher talent, and he can see some things from more of a fresher eye and potentially bring some new plays and some new thoughts here from a young collegiate standpoint, which really right now in the NFL is really important at succeeding, not just offensively or defensively, but just as a unit. Now, New England obviously could go other directions other than Bill O'Brien, and this offseason, I will make a video as long as they don't, within a couple of weeks, find a new offensive coordinator. But this offseason, I do plan on making a video on a couple of guys they could bring in that aren't Bill O'Brien. Some of those guys could be maybe in-house, like a Nick Caley. Maybe they try to go with a Joe Judge instead, which I don't agree with, but it's Bill Belichick at the end of the day. Maybe they look at elevating Troy Brown, who works with the Patriots wide receivers. Or like I said before, maybe it's a guy that just isn't even in-house at this point. But I really do think that the best move for the Patriots is to bring back Bill O'Brien. And, like I said, it really wouldn't surprise me if Bill O'Brien has been the game plan all along. It wouldn't surprise me if after Josh McDaniels left, the Patriots said, we want Bill O'Brien, because I remember when Josh McDaniels, even before he left for the job with the Raiders, when he was actually still with the Patriots in 2021, before that season even started, we were hearing that he could potentially be leaving for a head coaching job, and ultimately he didn't. But we were still hearing rumors that he could. The Patriots draft Mac Jones, and we start hearing, hey, if Josh McDaniels does leave for a head coaching job, Bill O'Brien could be the guy in. So these have been ties that have been going back for a couple of years now. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if Bill Belichick says, all right, we just lost Josh McDaniels. Bill O'Brien is the guy that I want in here. This is the best way of being successful, working with Mac Jones and continuing to develop him. But obviously I can't poach from Nick Saban, so I'm going to have to wait a year. So what does he do? He doesn't promote from within, because he's not going to demote after that. And he's not going to bring in some random guy off the streets for 1 year. What does he do? He promotes a guy like Matt Patricia, who he can trust, who he can just demote back to, player of personnel a year later. And the team ultimately would just have to get through 1 year with a Matt Patricia-led offense, which ultimately did not work, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was Bill Belichick's thought. At the end of the day, New England's offense is currently ranked 26 in yards per game. So it really can't get much worse if Bill O'Brien does come in and things don't work out. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? I know some of you don't like Bill O'Brien coming to the Patriots, and I know some of you love it. So let me know what you're thinking and what you're feeling in the comment section below, and let's start a discussion. Make sure to subscribe for all your New England Patriots news, guys. Like this video and comment because it really, really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, promoting this video to other Patriots fans to continue to grow the Patriots global community. So guys, like, comment, subscribe, but never forget, go Pats.